Hey, this is super interesting. Republican Governor Charlie Baker from Massachusetts, our governor, has announced that he cannot support Donald Trump for president and will not be voting for Donald Trump. Now, I've mentioned before that Massachusetts has this habit of electing sort of moderate Republican governors. Bill Weld is an example. Mitt Romney, not really a moderate, but in the modern Republican Party, certainly less extreme than many other Republicans. And despite being a very blue state with a very left wing state legislature, these sort of more moderate Republicans are frequently elected governors of Massachusetts. We've also reported that Charlie Baker is a Republican governor who has dealt pretty well with coronavirus. I think now things are starting to get a little out of hand. I think indoor dining needs to be shut down and quick because we are back up to 700 cases a day after being down to, 150 and the like. But overall, Charlie Baker has done pretty well with the virus. Back when Donald Trump wanted state National Guard troops sent down to guard the border, Charlie Baker said, "I'm not doing it." Well, the latest news is that Charlie Baker is abandoning the Republican Party this November, at least nationally, and not supporting Donald Trump, putting out a statement a couple days ago through his communications director, which said, quote, "The governor cannot support Donald Trump for president and is focused on seeing Massachusetts through the pandemic. He'll leave the election analysis to the pundits." Now, we already knew Baker didn't vote for Trump back in 2016. He voted a blank ballot on the presidency. So this could be a few different things. This could be that Charlie Baker, understanding that he's potentially on the ballot for re-election in a couple years, having one of the highest approval ratings of any governor on coronavirus as a Republican in a blue state, why would he do something that could torpedo him? But would it really torpedo him? I don't know. Massachusetts is a very blue state. But 32% of Massachusetts voters did vote for Trump in 2016. Now, it's important to understand a lot of those Massachusetts Republican voters are very different than Louisiana Republican voters, South Carolina Republican voters. But still, it's not clear that supporting Trump would torpedo Charlie Baker's shot at re-election. It wouldn't help, but it's not clear it would torpedo it. So it could really be a personal moral objection to Donald Trump and less about calculated politics. But either way, it's very interesting because it is not common that Republican governors don't support the Republican candidate for president. It's equally uncommon that Democratic governors wouldn't support the Democratic candidate for president. But you can really see it in a couple different ways. Now, the other thing I think is important to mention here is that these Republican governors like Charlie Baker are often seen as weird by Republicans in other parts of the country. There's a really interesting reality we have to come to terms with, which is that Charlie Baker really represents what Republicans used to be in the 60s and 70s. I would argue that the Republicans that are the weird ones are the ones that abandoned the school of thought of people like, William F. Buckley, for example, and now have turned into these sycophantic Lindsey Graham, Joni Ernst types. They are really the wacky ones. Bill Weld, another example of a Republican Massachusetts governor who's really a right-leaning libertarian, as an example. And similarly, if you look at the Republican governors as well as the Republican electorates in a lot of these other states, you see dramatically different things. And it does reflect the Republicans in the state. Brooklyn, it happens on the Democratic side as well. Brooklyn Democrats and South Carolina Democrats are very different. There's no question about that. And much the same way, rural Pennsylvania Republicans and Boston suburb Republicans are very different. One Republican governor at minimum is abandoning Donald Trump. We will see if anybody else does. In any case, I would expect a Donald Trump tweet or attack of some kind on Charlie Baker, calling him a rhino, a Republican in name only. Maybe he's already referred to Charlie Baker that way, and I just don't remember. But doing the right thing. I like that Charlie Baker is doing this. We have a fantastic program for you today. Later on in the show, we are going to talk about what should happen with the Electoral College, what can change the presidential race at this late stage, and very importantly, will the voter turnout explosion actually happen this year? We're seeing way more early voting than we've ever seen before, but we are in a pandemic where early voting has been encouraged like it's never been encouraged before. Every party, every election likes to say we have enthusiasm and we are going to win on record turnout this year. Is it actually going to happen? All of those and your calls will be discussed later on in the program. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at dpacman, and we will take a quick break and be back right after this. One of our sponsors today is Surfshark, which is a premium VPN service. They're giving my audience 83% off a 2-year plan plus 3 extra months for free, which all comes out to about $2 a month. And if you're not already using a VPN service, you really are opening yourself up to internet service providers logging and selling your internet history, tech companies tracking what you do online, even government surveillance. Surfshark is a VPN that helps protect you from all of those things by hiding your IP address when you're browsing online. Comes with a bunch of other great features. It's a company you can actually trust with your privacy. And you can install Surfshark VPN on unlimited devices. They never keep logs of your internet activity. And you can even use it to stream shows and movies that are only available in other countries. Surfshark is giving my audience 83% off a 2-year plan plus 3 extra months free. So that comes out to just about $2 a month, which is almost nothing relative to the peace of mind you will have while browsing online. Just go to surfshark.deals/Pacman. I've put the link underneath this video, and make sure to use the coupon code Pacman.